Hey guys, welcome to Books and BlueStockings. I'm Betty Bookworm and I read way too much into things. I love Halloween. I do. I love everything about it. I love the crunchy orange leaves. I love the candy. I love the costumes. I even like all the pumpkin shit. But I think my favorite thing about Halloween is all the witch movies. I am a connoisseur of witch movies. I love them so much, I watch them all year round. In my 24 years of watching witch movies, I've come across some fun magical romps and some duds. But only a few have been so delightful or so awful as to make a lasting impression. And I've divided these into the 5 best and the 5 worst witch films of all time. Now remember, these are just my opinions. Let's start with the crap de la crap, shall we? The number 1 worst witch movie of all time is Bewitched. Now this movie was well hated by all, mostly by lovers of the original TV show. I was never really a fan of the source material. A kind, beautiful woman with magical powers who suppressed them for her shitty husband? No thank you. Will Ferrell plays an actor who is trying to reboot the old TV show, but he accidentally cast a real witch as Samantha, and wacky hijinks ensue. The writing, which tries so hard to be charming, is just clunky. They got terrific actors like Nicole Kidman and Michael Caine, and they turned them into simpering shells of halfway decent characters. Forced morals and a hacky plot secures this movie's place as the number 1 worst witch movie of all time. The second worst witch movie of all time is Sabrina the Teenage Witch. This movie is based on the comic book of the same name, and it's full of 90s teen movie cheese. But not good cheese, moldy cheese. This movie is just the same magical child narrative. But instead of getting a Harry Potter story full of adventure and friendship, we get Gossip Girl levels of cattiness between Sabrina and the Mean Girls. But the obvious story pales in comparison to the less than memorable actors. In fact, the actors were so unremarkable, the only ones that made it over to the television series were Melissa Joan Hart and that weird chick that played her friend. Next on the list is Little Witches. This movie is a level of bad that is almost enjoyable. That's why it's only the 3rd worst. This movie is about high school girls who start a witch coven. Wow, that sounds familiar. If you're thinking this movie was a ripoff of The Craft, you are correct. This movie is The Craft if it was on crack and bath salts. Instead of worshiping nature and invoking spirits for power, the girls dance naked with the devil. Like for reals, that's all they do. You see boobs in like the first 10 minutes. This movie is 1 part ripoff and 3 parts pornography. On the bright side, it did help launch Clea Duvall's career. The 4th worst witch movie is Teen Witch. Somehow, someone took the entire essence of the 80s and packed it into a single movie. This is yet another magical child narrative where the protagonist uses her awesome gifts to become beautiful and popular. She really wants to seduce the most popular boy in school. And after she seduces him, does she use her powers for good? Feed the hungry, help the homeless? Nope, she gives up the magic and dances with her man. Why would I put this silly tripe so high on the list? Because there is a scene where the 2 dorkiest people who have ever dorked get into an epic rap battle. I'm hot, and you're not, but if you want to get with me, I'll give it one shot. The 5th worst witch movie, the so-called best of the worst, is The Last Keepers. With a star-studded cast featuring Aidan Quinn, Virginia Madsen, Olympia Dukakis, and that girl from the HBO show who's not Lena Dunham, this movie is interesting. It's creative, and initially it has a warm and inviting tone. But it gets dark pretty quickly. So quickly that it makes the story a bit uneven. It starts off as a story about a teenage girl discovering her powers which she inherited from her mother's side. She also discovers that she's the key to an ancient prophecy. But then a bunch of mean kids kill her goats. It's kind of all downhill from there. You're probably wondering why I didn't put the worst witch on the worst witch list. It's because Tim Curry is amazeballs and you should respect him. Well, we made it all the way through the worst. Let's move on to the best. The 5th best witch movie, or the worst of the best, is The Craft. Now, I've already discussed The Craft in past episodes, but the reason I put it so low on the best list is that it can get a bit silly and a tad bit forced at times. I still giggle every time Nancy screams, "Power!" And to be honest, I find it hard to cheer for Sarah against Nancy when she's so bland and Nancy's so charismatic. But all that aside, the characters are pretty likable and the story is simplistic but gripping enough to make you want to watch it again and again. Power! The fourth best witch movie is Practical Magic. This movie is based on Alice Hoffman's book of the same name, and I believe this is one of the few instances where the movie is actually better than the book. I love, love, love this movie. I love Nicole Kidman's zany attitude. I love Sandra Bullock's intuitive monologues. I love the aunt's kooky outfits. I love Aidan Quinn's southern drawl. Oh God, I love this movie! That being said, the movie isn't without its problems. The dialogue can be pretty cheesy sometimes. Diane Wiest actually says, "My little witch, let's go cast some spells." The third best witch movie is Vovavich. This film will keep your heart racing. This film is based on actual accounts from the 17th century of people who believe they had experiences with witchcraft. The movie can seem a tad bit slow at times, but the pacing is really just a build-up for the unsettling and incredibly scary climax. And yes, I know it's actually pronounced witch, but I like saying Vovavich. The second best witch movie is The Witches. This movie is fun and creepy all rolled into one. This is the story of a boy and his grandmother who encounter child-killing witches on their vacation. This movie is a great family film with adventure, friendship, and redemption. But the heart of the movie lies in the mythos. The witches have a scary and enticing origin story that makes it all the more satisfying when they get their comeuppance. Plus, Angelica Houston is fabulous. And the top best witch movie, in my personal opinion, is Hocus Pocus. Who doesn't love this movie? Nazis. Nazis don't love this movie. This movie is so much fun. Yeah, it's historically and magically inaccurate, and sure, Max Dennison is about as likable as a day-old cookie. But none of that matters because Bette Midler, Kathy Najimy, and Sarah Jessica Parker are comedy gold. Everything about them is sheer perfection. Timing, on point. Chemistry, on point. Singing, on point. Everything about this movie, from the cinematography to the costumes, screams Halloween. This movie also has a great message about the importance of family. The family aspect even overshadows the teenage romance. Teen Witch couldn't do that. Plus, Gary Marshall dresses up like the devil, and an 8-year-old Thora Birch says yabos. Thanks for watching. I'm Betty Bookworm. Now go watch the movies.